Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're live. We're going to talk Justice League, and we're talking about, as you can see here, sound design for specific things in Justice League and how it links to the rest of the DCEU, as well as we're going to talk a little bit about box office, about the Justice League, and some good news and some breakthrough news, which you guys should celebrate with me if you're true fans of the DCEU. So let's get into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is box office. So the estimated figures for Justice League, I'm going to go loose figures. I'm not actually looking at the box office right now. For Justice League was $613 million worldwide, and domestically $212 million. That would be the Kume that they projected it for the end of the last weekend, right? It superseded it by a little bit. It superseded the domestic by 60,000, sorry, and the international by 1 million. So it actually somewhere around $614 million, and domestically 212 million, but 60,000 more than it was before. So that's in credit to you guys that actually pushed Justice League over the weekend. That is very good. This is the first time Justice League has actually done better than its estimates. So that's some good news. When we're looking at sound effects, okay, let's talk about sound effects or sound design of Justice League. So in Justice League, there's some very interesting things that happened. If you listen to the sound design or the sound effects of the parademons, especially when the parademons are exploding, not so much when they're flying and other things, but when the parademon was caught by Batman, it did a certain thing. It made a certain sound. That sound reminded us of when a mother box wakes up and then it starts to open a boom tube. It's the same sound design that you hear. But even more interesting enough is the fact that that sound design sounds very similar to the World Engine sound we heard in Man of Steel. And that World Engine sound we also heard in BVS. And it's very interesting that in all three movies, we go back to the Kryptonian ship. We focus on the Kryptonian ship a number of times in all three movies. So the sound design of the parademons, of the mother boxes, and of the boom, when they open up the boom tubes, that is, and also the sound design of the World Engine when it is terraforming the world. All three sound designs, which are alien, by the way, are similar. And then even more interesting is the fact that the mother boxes, the sound they make, there's a certain sound they make, actually is similar to the sound that Cyborg makes. So I looked at the sound design and I noticed a link between that Cyborg actually makes a certain sound as he is also, as he's moving around and activating, he has a certain sound. I like it. It's a very electromagnetic sound. So that's to show alien technology, and there's a link between each of these things. And this has been pervading throughout the DCEU with respect to the trilogy, not necessarily with respect to the outside films like Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad, but with respect to the trilogy, we've seen this. So I thought that was interesting to note. Also, I wanted to talk about something that has a little bit different to sound effects and sound design and box office. There's something else I wanted to talk about that I noted. And that is, throughout all three movies, we've heard the concepts of engines. We've heard about engines. In Man of Steel, we heard of the World Engine and terraforming. And it's interesting. This concept is very interesting because it pervades. It goes into the second of the trilogy, which is Man of Steel. Which is Batman v Superman, where we hear again. This time we don't hear about a World Engine, but we hear about I didn't take a note of it, but Lex Luthor spoke about a world changer in Doomsday, someone specially created to destroy Superman. It was called he was called the I forgot what they call it, but anyway, then we go to Justice League, I should have followed up on that, but I didn't actually check out in BVS the engine that was in there that was working. In BVS anyway, in Justice League, sorry, we had another engine. We had mention of the engine of the world, and we had reference to the change engine. The change engines were the mother boxes, and again, they terraform the world just like the world engine, but they are also capable of doing the cycle of life rather quickly, and so they can bring life and other things. They're just a tool that can be used for good or for evil. And it is interesting to also note that the world engines, they can be manipulated, and the craft also could be manipulated to actually open up a wormhole, a kind of loop. They loop again, same thing like what happened with the mother boxes. They loop, and by looping, they can create a black hole and suck everything in, which is what Superman did with his little pod that he had, that he came into the world in. But we also heard in Justice League about the engine of the world. The engine of the world in this case, Lois Lane is referring to, is hope. It's what drives people, which was incarnated in Superman. So he said the engine of the world while it ran. So she was interested in that. She was basically interested in Superman. So I thought that was interesting. Now, another thing, since I'm a Christian, I noticed that there were Christocentric themes. Some people will say there are Mat themes, because Mat is an Egyptian sort of principle at which you work. And so there are Egyptian or Christocentric themes in this movie as well. Also, there are Persian and Greco-Roman themes in this movie. So there are all those things there. There are also some works of art in this movie, just like in BVS. I haven't really talked much about. And again, it has to do with the above and below concept that Zack Snyder keeps on belaboring, but we'll get to that in time. And it also talks about law, justice, because this movie is all about justice. So you'll find a lot of you actually find a lot of themes related to justice throughout this movie as well. So I thought that was interesting, and I will try and do videos on all of those things. Now, there are a number of sayings also in Justice League which are very interesting, and if you guys want to, in the chat section, you can always give a couple of those sayings in this movie which were very interesting, that are actually long-standing sayings. Now, in BVS, there were a lot of them, a lot of really popular sayings that people are familiar with and are true sayings. Writers, playwrights, philosophers have all said. So BVS was rich with that. Man of Steel didn't have as many, and this movie didn't have as many as BVS. That's why I say BVS is really the mecca of Zack Snyder's trilogy. It is the culmination of everything. But Justice League is not bad. It's better than Man of Steel. It's better than Wonder Woman. It's on par with Batman v Superman. But we'll get into that in another time. All right. So leave in the comment section some of the sayings you saw in Justice League that I didn't cover before. I already did The Strongest Man is Strong Alone, but there's a couple other sayings inside of there. Put out some of them. There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them. There's a good lot of them. But I want to see what you guys have to say about that. So put it in the comment section at the side, the chat section, which should be over here. So you just look over here, and you can participate in the chat section. I can't stay too long, guys. It's already 12 o'clock in the day. I'm in the middle of the day. I just took a break to share those things with you guys. I'm kind of doing them off of lists, but nonetheless. Now, there's some things I also have to debunk, the fake outrage complaints. Some of them was Superman's black suit. It should have been in the movie, and we heard it was in the movie. And we know that's just basically a rumor. What I mean by rumor, that it was going to be in the movie. It's obviously Zack Snyder shot a ton of footage, and a lot of the footage was going to be on the cutting room floor anyway. And Superman's black suit, according to Robert Wagner, was part of it. But that didn't guarantee that it was going to be in the movie, and Zack Snyder was going to have it in the movie, right? We had some other rumors like Cyborgs Backstory. A lot of it was cut out. We saw some of Cyborgs Backstory, but again, we're not doing a movie on Cyborg, so we didn't expect that to be the focus. Then they said some Flash scenes were cut out. From what we've seen, that Flash scene wasn't really necessary to the movie. I'd love to see it in a Zack Snyder cut because I just want to see what he would have had, and it would be much more fun for people to see all that stuff. But it's not really relevant to carrying the story forward, so it's not really that important. They also talked about, these are some of the other rumors, that Aquaman scenes were cut out with Vulko. We know Vulko was supposed to be in this movie, but then again, all of this is just background Aquaman. Think about it. When we were in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, it's about Batman, it's about Superman. So we didn't expect a whole bunch of Wonder Woman scenes. Wonder Woman was a plus, you know what I'm saying? And in addition to that, this movie is about the Justice League. It's not about Aquaman. It ain't about the Flash, and it's not about Cyborg. It's about the Justice League and how this movie's built around that. And it was built around Cyborg, clearly, because he's a key piece with the mother boxes in really solving this story. And so that's what it was about. It's not about any one of these guys. They're going to have their standalone. So, I mean, they just wanted to give you sufficient information to carry the story along. So the people who are behaving stupidly, that's, I mean, so the Aquaman scenes, which were cut out with Vulko and redone, I believe it was a reshoot with Aquaman talking to Mira. I could be wrong, but I think it was a reshoot. I could be wrong. I don't know. To basically tie it together. I thought that that was well done. That was to the point. So Superman was all Whedon. That's a lie. Superman wasn't all Whedon at all. People are saying that this was Whedon's Superman. That's not possible. Not possible at all. And I'll tell you why. While Whedon did rework a lot of the dialogue for Superman, they had some reshoots. Dialogue. Notice I say dialogue. I didn't say wherever you see Superman. It means there's a lot of the action scenes in Superman, including the final action scenes in with Superman, that Whedon did not do. But Whedon was brought on to basically knit dialogue together. That's what Whedon's job on this thing was. Okay. So he would take something that maybe was too long and he would shorten it up and connect it to another part. So this much I do know. There was more action in this movie, but the action had to be cut down. I can tell you that there was more backstory to some of the characters here. Steppenwolf probably had maybe a little bit more backstory, but I don't know how true that is. I may be wrong again, but that's an assumption because there are rumors around there that all of these things are unconfirmed reports, so you can't really. But what we can confirm is that it was a little bit more for Flash. There was a little bit more for Cyborg. We actually saw the footage. I actually saw the footage of Cyborg trying to fly the morning and all of that stuff. And honestly, I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see that for this story. It wasn't going to carry the story any further. In fact, sometimes less is more. And sometimes the story is actually better for not seeing all of that. But I don't even know if Zack Snyder would have incorporated that in his cut. That's the thing. That's the thing. If he had to do a 2-hour cut or a 2-hour 20-minute or 2-hour 30-minute cut, I don't even know if these scenes would have made it to the final cut. See, this is the thing. People are assuming because they know some information that these scenes would have made it fine. What we know is Junkie XL would have had this, would have been doing the score, and it would have been a lot more suspenseful and a lot more sort of gritty-ish. That much we do know. But then again, when you think about it, now little kids can come see this movie, whereas it might have appealed to little kids still, but it would have been more adult oriented. So I mean, I can't really knock this film. That's why I love it so much. I can't knock it because I saw where Warner Brothers was trying to go with this film, and I didn't really have a problem with it. It wasn't a Marvel film. There were certain parts of it I just detested. I didn't like the Marvel music in it, but I got over it pretty quick. You know what I'm saying? I got over it pretty quick. I didn't think, again, Danny Elfman does Marvel movies, so whatever. What can you do about that? And some of it was generic, but it is what it is. That's what music does. It gives a certain tone to film. It doesn't mean the film is actually going according to what you think it is. But at the end of the day, yeah. So Superman was not all Whedon. Please stop saying that. That's not true at all. Zack Snyder's a huge Superman fan, and he dedicated this entire trilogy to Superman. So, I mean, and there was a reason why Superman came back when he came back, and that was all Zack Snyder. The coming back of Superman, the plan to get Superman out of there and all. Joss Whedon may have done rewrites, but the plan and everything else in there was Zack Snyder. In fact, I would not be surprised that Henry Cavill just had to relay the same words, because what you notice is Joss Whedon does a lot of verbose dialogue. If you've ever seen the Avengers or even Age of Ultron, they talk. They talk unnecessarily and stand around talking. Okay. In this movie, there's not a lot of dialogue. I'll tell you why. Because Zack Snyder and Chris Terrio and David Goyer, they're minimalists. So the fact that Joss Whedon's doing a retake of something, I'm pretty sure the script, he didn't change Chris Terrio's script. What more likely he did was have the actors reinterpret with slight nuances. For instance, if Superman's face was all skinned up and everything, and he was like looking at Batman like, "Do you bleed?" Instead, Joss Whedon had it more subtle. So Superman's eyebrows might be furrowed, but his face was bland, and he was like, "Tell me, do you bleed?" Like that instead. So that's it. He might have just, that's when we talk about reshoots. And he did it also to tie in. Maybe Superman did a whole bunch of other stuff. Maybe there was something else going on. And he tied, instead of having all of that going on and all that clutter, he simplified it and he kept it simple. So the fans and the people could just follow the story much faster. And he was moving along quick. So you didn't have time for all this extra explanation and visual this and clutter fuck. So he didn't want that. So he kept it simple. And that's why they would have had a redone script for that part to cut out and knit back things. Whedon pulled it off, and he pulled it off miraculously, even though there are some plot holes in this movie. He pulled it off miraculously. And that's what I like about it. I like what Whedon did. I have to appreciate it. He's good. He's damn good. I didn't like what happened with Wonder Woman. That's about it. Everything else was cool, man. Everything else was cool. Lex Luthor's scene was removed with Deathstroke taking him out of prison. That was debunked already. There never was a shot of that. Somebody imagined that. They said that Steppenwolf was killed by Darkseid, and Darkseid showed up in the movie. That's somebody's imagination again, running wild. That's not true. Hegera was in the mother boxes. We learned that wasn't true. First of all, if Hegera was there, then they would have cast an actor for Hegera. Think about that. I'm just saying. Steppenwolf, and they would have cast somebody for Darkseid too. Right? Think about those things. It's common sense. Steppenwolf was on a spaceship. That's bullshit. That's from the trailers. People look at the trailers and they say, "Oh, that's a spaceship," but now they down in a silo. No, it's the same building. You know. But you know, it is what it is. Fans with speculation, and if you want to, you can put in the comment section also some other speculatory things so I can debunk those things, because I'm building a list to just simply show from trailers and from behind the scene footage and from actual quotations of the actors and people there, and just debunk the shit out of these things, so that you can just take one video, which is probably 5 to 10 minutes long, and anybody says any stupidness, you say that they're lies, they're myths and rumors, because there's a lot of myths and rumors going around. Even the reshuffling of Warner Brothers, and they're looking at a different approach, that's all rumor right now. That's all speculation. Even the Sierra Hines, oh, he's critiquing, he wants the Snyder cut and blah, 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 blah. You know what? That's all rumor as well. If Sierra Hines said that, then we would see it in quotation marks, and we would see a soundbite on that. He would actually come out and say it. He wouldn't say it to a fan. Don't believe that. So it's just a lot of lies to slander a movie. All right, guys, if you got any comments for me in the comment section, go ahead. It is the middle of the day. I don't expect any of you to be talking about this movie probably tonight, but not in the middle of the day. Nonetheless, we'll see. We'll have a look right now. Wow. So there are people talking. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. Good morning, bro. Getting ready for work, but I'll be right back. I also thought it sounded like a tube in Transformers as well. Oh, I actually didn't watch. Did I watch Transformers? Yeah, I did watch Transformers. I just can't remember it. I can't remember the movie. Okay. Probably. I don't know. I can't remember Transformers. Which Transformers are you talking about? Transformers, right. Oh, I thought you said Power Rangers. My bad. Transformers. Tube. What tube is that? You're gonna have to help me out with that, because I can't remember. What was the last night you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Dave Eaton, technology without reason will destroy anything. That is true. Just technology for technology's sake will destroy anything. It depends on whose hands it's in, which is another good point you make, because actually if you look at the world engine that was destroying the world, Superman was able to turn the world engine on itself. And check this out. This is really cool. Superman turned the world engine on itself, right? They were able to do that using his engine from his pod, right? In BVS, Lex Luthor used, he created Doomsday, right? With the technology, the Kryptonian technology. And Superman was able to destroy Doomsday by using the very thing that was used to destroy him, which was the kryptonite spear, which Lex Luthor had planned. He used the kryptonite spear against Lex Luthor's design and turned it against himself. And then in Justice League, Steppenwolf is trying to get the mother boxes to terraform the Earth. And Batman uses the mother box to bring back Superman using the mother box against Steppenwolf. So technology can be used for good or for evil. It doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have reasoning. So you got to have a backup plan. But other than that, it can be used one way or the other. So it's not that the mother boxes or change engines were bad. They're agents of change, but it can be used for good or for evil. The world engine, it could be used for good or for evil. The technology in the Kryptonian chamber, we saw it make Doomsday, but we also see it revive Superman. It could be used for good or for evil. The Kryptonian spear, it could be used for good or for evil, to kill an innocent guy like Superman or to destroy a threat like Doomsday. So it's really cool that you actually say that, because that is actually a very revealing concept. And you know, we like to talk concepts up in here and with the trilogy and how they connect to one another. I was just listing the concepts though. I wasn't particularly going into them in any detail. I'll go into them in detail in another video. But they're just, you know, they're just concepts here that I had written down, and I thought it was pretty cool. Any of you remember any sayings? You remember any sayings in Justice League, which are really cool, really awesome sayings that you guys remember? You can just list them up in there, man. The two of you that are watching, I didn't expect y'all to come out and say anything. I was just kind of talking to the camera, but it is all good. I don't even know how much time I've done here. I'm not staying very long, guys. I know you guys got to go do what you got to do. I know you guys love Justice League. That's why you're here on this video. I'm gonna do something up in Facebook in a minute, right? I've been on Twitter already. Oh, yes. So we talked a little bit about the box office. You guys made the box office possible to be higher than it is, but we need to keep on pressing onwards, people who are promoting this movie. The fans make movies what they are, and that's why if you check my last video, there's another video somewhere around there, you'll find out more about what the fans are doing with this movie. Let's talk a little bit more about sound effects and sound design with Justice League and how it fits in with the sound effects and sound design of the previous films. If you do remember Wonder Woman, Zack Snyder has a way of always looking at the God versus man complex. So when he's doing some kind of divine thing, in BVS, you heard Superman when he was fighting Batman, and he's, you know, you hear the chorus, the human, oh shit, what you call that? The human chorale. They were saying, oh, you hear that kind of thing going on. And you heard it in Justice League. You heard this, whenever there's some kind of godlike something going on, there's all of this sort of cathedral-like singing along with it. And this also goes all the way back to BVS. When Superman, he's dealing with the world engine in the Indian Ocean, and you hear, oh, the climax like that, and you get that again. So whenever there's some divine something going on, you get that kind of ethereal, cathedral-like, choir-like singing, almost Gregorian monk kind of stuff going on there. And so that's the divinity, and they're able to show the divinity that way. Now, in other movies, we haven't seen that, because usually the superheroes in other comic book movies are not necessarily considered divine or gods. So the God complex, the God aspect, has been introduced by DC Comics. I can't remember any other comic book movie actually using that, oh, except if you're talking about movies outside of the regular comic books, like The Matrix did it with Neo when he took on this kind of godlike status. But other than that, you don't really get that. Lord of the Rings, we got that kind of stuff. Maybe in a Harry Potter movie, you may get it once or twice, maybe just sprinkles of it. But for the most part, it's grand, it's epic. You know, when when Steppenwolf, when they fired those, when Cyborg fired those 2 missiles at Steppenwolf, I loved the orchestral sequence that Danny Elfman pulled up, because Steppenwolf caught the missile. Now remember, the missile's still firing in his hand, so he caught it in his hand like this, right? And the missile's firing off, and then he says, and you hear the music go, and then he says, "Primitive beings." Turns the missile this way. He turns it this way and just lets it go, and it slams into the it slams into the side of the underground tunnel, you know, and everything bursts out and comes in. I'm like, damn. I love that line. He looks at their technology. He looks at their technology, like he examines it, and he's like, "Primitive beings." It's so funny. It's funny, man. I love that. I just love that line, and just the music that goes with it. Oh man, he just examines that thing. It's, man, you gotta love these kinds of things, man. Yeah. So the orchestration tells you that Steppenwolf is like this godlike status. You know, God. Imagine you shooting this guy with missiles. You remember when they nuked Superman? You know, all your technology fails against Steppenwolf. This dude got hit with a lightning bolt from Zeus. That's things that kill the old gods, get killed by that stuff, or crippled. And Steppenwolf, man, this dude still keeps coming. Think about what I'm saying. Cyborg blasted him with the with his sonic gun. That usually cripple or incapacitate somebody else. Not freaking Steppenwolf, man. Dude be taking that. Dude got stabbed by Ares. Ares came down with his battle axe on Steppenwolf. And Steppenwolf still turns. He takes that, right? You think about what I'm talking about. And that's why I don't know if Steppenwolf actually gets killed by those parademons. A lot of parademons attacked him. His helmet came off and everything. You know, I didn't really like the helmet falling from the sky and going boom, 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 boom. I thought that was kind of tacky. And I'm pretty sure that Joss Whedon had something to do with that. Maybe not. Maybe not. I could be wrong. It could be Zack Snyder. It is what it is. But I'm tired of seeing, you know, something fall from the sky. That's a typical Hollywood thing. When an alien, whatever, you just see a piece of something come back from the sky. Maybe it's supposed to mean they're dead or something. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I didn't really particularly like that. But it's cool. I mean, there are things I didn't like in the movie. I'm beginning to realize, but it's all good. It's all good. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. So yes, the godlike music, that sound design, it translated through from Man of Steel, even in Wonder Woman, we heard that godlike, again, the ethereal, the cathedral-like singing. Whenever there's something godlike going on, even when Ares levitated off the ground, Wonder Woman was levitating off the ground, and they were watching it in horror. You heard the orchestra, and then you heard the you know, the choir or whatever singing that kind of, oh, you know, like, oh yeah, just another level right here. There's a godlike thing going on here, you know. So yeah. What else can I say about sound design? When it comes to when it came to the when it came to the mother boxes, they actually have a certain sound that they make, right? And this is besides opening up boom tubes and stuff. They actually make a certain sound. I noticed that Steppenwolf, unlike the parademon, Steppenwolf doesn't really make a sound. He doesn't make a mechanical sound. If you listen to parademons, they make a mechanical sound. So they're not just creatures. Like even when they said at Steppenwolf killed a parademon at the blade of his axe, yes, they come into a creature, but it seems as though this creature is processed into a half biological, half machine-like creature. And we saw that when the parademon was actually exploding, it started to self-destruct, and you saw the 3 mother box like symbols come up on it. So something has to do with those creatures being processed somehow by mother boxes or something that makes them now fully soldiers of Darkseid, soldiers of Steppenwolf. You know, and I also like how they told the story and just included Darkseid by Steppenwolf's mouth instead of Diana explaining everything with Steppenwolf. I thought that was pretty cool as well. Now, besides the sound design, besides the concepts that we have here, I have right here, I just want to talk about one more thing. So if you guys don't have any quotations or themes or anything like that inside of the movie, I'm just gonna wrap it up with this little talk here. I'm not gonna stay too long. It's already 12:26. It's afternoon time. I need to get out of here. So I just want to talk about people's perception of this movie now. Some people are now beginning to realize that it was just a lot of slander against this movie, and they're actually going out with their children and other people to see it. The enthusiasm level is still not very high. It's about, maybe it's about here, but it has risen from the last time, from that onslaught that was happening. And what I'm going to tell you guys out there is that in terms of Star Wars coming around the corner, which a lot of people are excited for, you can tell from social media, Twitter, and so on, which I'm looking forward to it myself. I can say that even though there's enthusiasm for Star Wars, I already see from my perception and my analysis that people are open and ready to also look at this movie in the cinema while Star Wars is playing. So there is a market for this, an untapped market for this movie, even while Star Wars is playing. People have had their fill of Thor Ragnarok, and I think they're willing to give this movie a chance, especially in light of the fact that Star Wars is coming out this week. People are excited for Star Wars, and so I'm just saying this to tell you that there's an environment where you can still talk about Justice League even though Star Wars is coming out. All right? And there's nothing wrong with being excited for Star Wars. I hope you are. And I hope you talk about Star Wars. But just understand that there's still this market out there for Justice League. There are actually people who are like you and me, receptive to Justice League, but they got turned off by all of the rumors and slander and negative things that were said and pitting of directors against each other. So there's still people out there who are going to go into the cinema and see this movie. They just put it off because they thought, well, you know, I'm excited for it, but I mean, you know what, I'm kind of put it off. So Star Wars is coming around the corner, the mecca of this thing that really opened up universes to start with. That was the most successful universe that opened up, Star Wars. And you know, there's diehard Star Wars fans out there. So take this opportunity to keep on pushing Justice League. Do not think that Star Wars is going to dwarf it. It will dwarf it. I mean, that goes without saying. But it's not going to stifle it. It's actually, Star Wars is actually a film that helps Justice League. Justice League is going to get helped a lot by Star Wars. So think of it in that perspective, and we will roll on. I'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a great one.